Like we in the club, fly flashy, grown classy, so turn to the dub. Saturday mornings, no walk of shame, we fresher. 950 lounge, that's my guilty pleasure. I don't miss my favorite show, I put everything on hold. Work the baby, even the babysitter no. When 950 come on, don't bother. I'm locked in 10 to 1, no problem. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
We have a gentleman here that he has did a lot of different things in his young life, but we want to talk to him because it's always steps, I always say, to where you get at. Mm-hmm. And we're glad to have you on the show. But first, let me introduce you. This is Ken Butler. Welcome to 950 Lounge.
Thank you.
I thought your show was going to give you some clapping.
Oh,
you
it's
know
okay. It's okay.
You must need the button there.
I'm okay.
Sound effect.
It's okay.
But thank you for coming to the lounge, man. We appreciate it. I was reading your bio, and I told you when I first met you this morning that it's a testimony. It's mm-hmm. a story, but it's definitely a testimony. Take us back, mm-hmm. growing up North Philadelphia. And not the song on the playground when I spent most of my games.
Well, I mean, I did grow up kind of on the playground, but not really. But
we already got that. You're not a football fan. Sorry, he's not a football fan. No. Everybody feel like he ain't a football fan.
I gotta rep the Eagles because I'm from Philly, but I gotta rep the Eagles because I'm from Philly. But
thank you. No, you don't.
That's it.
No, you ain't.
Well, I mean, they told
you're not
me
in
I got
Philly right now. You in New York.
All right, New York. I love New York. But y'all don't like the Eagles.
No.
I don't know nothing about football. I'm telling you, so I don't know the game.
It's not about
okay.
the Eagles. Mm-hmm. But growing up in Philly, take us back when you was growing up in Philly. How your childhood was an upside, topsy turvy. But take us back, growing up in Philly. How propelled you where you are now to where you were?
I think for growing up in Philly for me was very tough because I had to technically, I don't want to say raise my parent, but I had to take care of her almost like since I was 7. So I took care of my mom. She has lupus. She had lupus, arthritis, bronchitis, and a lot of other diseases. And I had to basically do everything you could ever do for someone that couldn't really walk or really do anything for themselves. So of course, my mom taught me a lot of foundations and what to do and what not to do. But as far as like physically taking care of me, she wasn't able to do it. And my siblings had already grew up, and it's 13 years apart from me and my the sibling right above me, and they had their own lives and they went their way and I went mine. And I talk about that on my blog called Deadbeat Brother. But at the end of the day, with my mom, it was always a struggle. And then me growing up, obviously as a teenager, you get into fights, you get into trouble, you get into arguments, right. And there was nobody to really help. So what happened was when I was about 14 years old, I was like 14 in 6th grade, and everybody saw a problem with it. And like the Philadelphia School District was like, this is a problem. So I was going in to see a guidance counselor. I would like literally be at home by myself, taking care of myself. And my mom was probably in the ICU for like 3 months at a time sometimes. And one of my guidance counselors called DHS, which is the Department of Human Services. Right. And she came in and they were like, we're going to put him in placement. And my mom was devastated because she had 2 questions. Of course, she didn't want to lose her child. And then also she's like, who's going to take care of me? So it was like a big thing for both of us. But I knew she wanted the best for me. And I wanted to go because I felt like there was something else for me to achieve. So when I got into the group home, it was like me with 16 other boys. And obviously, when you put it's
a lot of fighting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fights, a lot of arguments, a lot of stuff that I wasn't accustomed to because I was technically raised as an only child. Yeah. So I didn't know how to share. I didn't know how to go to, be around so many different people. But that helped me with my social skills because I started to talk a lot. even though I got into a lot of fights, a lot of arguments, I got a chance to see things from a different perspective. And then being in that group home setting, I was able to focus then on myself and my education. And I got myself from like I think even though I was in the fourth grade, I'm not fourth, sixth grade, I was on a second grade reading level. And I was able to get myself from a second grade reading level all the way up to like a 10th by like, I think it was like a year and a half. And then they moved me up to public school because I had went to like a little alternative school in between time, and I had a lot of tutors.
Well, the thing is that you had a lot of problems in school because you, like you said, you was taking care of your mother.
Absolutely.
You know? So you couldn't really focus on school. So basically, once you got into the group home, you was kind of maybe able to focus on yourself, meaning you could focus on other things besides your mother.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Now, go ahead.
Now, how did that shape you, though? Being a young man now where you're in the second grade reading level and you're 14. Now you got to push yourself. What was that push in a year and a half? What pushed you to say, you know what, I could stay down this road here and just, be whatever, or let me push myself so that by this time I'm here. What was that pushing factor for you?
Honestly, I've always been extremely ambitious, and I don't know where it comes from. Everybody always says that. Like, I just went back and spoke at my high school yesterday, and they said, like, everything I can always say about you, you've always been brave and you've always pushed yourself. So I don't know where that comes from. I think it always been like my creativity and me saying I can do this more than anything else. I don't think it was like an extra thing of me saying that this is a problem or me knowing. I just was like, I want to be there, and I feel like I need to get there. So I will always do whatever it takes to really get there. And then I always have like a creative, a competitive spirit too. Like I always like, okay, I have to do, because I really don't have the foundation below me, I always feel like in my head, I have to work 10 times harder than them to get half of what they have. And I always thought like that since a kid. So even when I was even in the placement, I was like, okay, he reading and doing all these plays on Rosa Parks and all this stuff like that. I'm going to do one in an intricate way, because that's like, let's say for Black History Month, one of the biggest things I do remember during that time when I was the transitional period that you spoke of. One, it was Black History Month, and they asked us to write like an article about different people. And mind you, I couldn't spell. So I was like, oh my God, who do I do one on? And I was like, I'm going to do one on Holly Berry. Because I knew everybody else was going to do like Rosa Parks and everybody. The traditional stuff. Right. So me taking that other angle and that other approach, it was like interesting to my teacher's eye. Like, oh my gosh. And it's funny that I do that now too with like my writing style too. I don't go with the traditional things that everybody's talking about. I always go with whatever, the side view is. So
now, how did you get your love for fashion? Did it come in the group home when you started, seeing, like, maybe looking at books and seeing styles, and maybe in your mind you start creating stuff? And
that came from me literally just finding an outlet during the time I was taking care of my mom when I was a kid, and I would just sketch. Okay. And my mom always like loved my sketches or whatever. And then a lot of people started paying more attention to the clothes than the actual people I was making, because my mom would always say, I can only do sticks, like. And mine would be like full-figure people, and they would started paying more attention to the clothes. But I didn't finally start getting into like classes for design until I was in a group home, and a lot of the staff started to say, "Oh my God, we got to send him to like an art school." So they sent me to an art school. So that's kind of how that developed.
And you just and then when you went to art school, it propelled you to actually
get
into the fashion.
Absolutely.
Game. Talk about when you got into the fashion game, when you came in there. I mean, you coming in there as a new person, but when you was in there, did anybody take you under their wings, and teach you?
Absolutely. I was kind of like ushered into the fashion industry because I started I went to the Art Institute of Philadelphia for like a little bit. And in that little bit of time, I met a professor named Emil Dijon. And Emil, he worked in the industry for, at that point, it was like years, like to almost like 3 decades, and he had connections out of this world. He had a little black book that connects you with anybody. And one day I was just sitting in the room, and we did a project, and he liked my project so much. He was like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "Working." And he was like, "You want to work for Oscar de la Renta?" And I was like, "What?" And then I worked for Oscar, who's like the biggest designer ever.
Yeah.
So I got to work with him actually in his showroom during marketing week. And for a kid from Philly, that's like a dream. Any fashion person will tell you that's like a to die for opportunity. And after I finished that, he was like, well, you want to go intern for Vogue magazine the same way, like just sitting in his class. And I was like, yeah. So I was working in the wardrobe closet there. And then from there, I just started doing stuff like Ralph Rucci, who's the only American couturier. So that was like a real big opportunity for me. And he's from Philly, and he had like this big thing at the art museum, which I helped with. And I was like really excited about that. So that's kind of how I got ushered in.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mike, you have any questions for the gentleman? So
I'm enjoying this story. So at the moment,
Well,
I don't have a question.
So you're hitting fashion hard. Now you come up to, was it FIT if I'm not mistaken?
FIT, yeah.
So now what brought you up to FIT? What made you say, you know what, I'm good teach. I appreciate, you know, the little ins and outs that you just provided me with. I'm going to go to the big time, about 2 hours up the road here and see what I could do.
It happened by accident because I got kicked out the Art Institute because
we got to find out what you did.
You had no choice. You had to go to
What
FIT.
happened? Why'd you get kicked out?
Well,
you seem like a nice guy.
I am, but it just was a lot going on at the time. Like I was interning a lot, and to be honest, I just started messing around in class and not really taking it really serious because I'm like, I'm at Oscar de la Renta, I'm with Ralph Rucci, and like
it got to your
yeah,
head.
a little bit.
So it wasn't a whole lot of it?
Yeah, probably a whole lot.
What can you tell me? You know,
I just was like kind of like that because I was looking at it like I got more experience than my teachers now. Like, what can you now tell me? Even though I respected Emile Dejean and a lot of other teachers, professors, but the other ones that I had, I was like, oh, I don't really got to take that serious. And if it was like a writing class, I don't really have to take that serious because I'm in the fashion industry. They don't really care. And I'm already working. You know, at that time, I was working for Giorgio Armani, which was like a big deal. So I'm like, I don't care, you know, and I was just kind of like ushered and thrown in. So they obviously kicked me out.
They ushered you out.
They
The
sure
same
did.
way you came in is the
Sure
same way
did.
you was
They
ushered
ushered
or
me
not,
out.
huh?
But I still kept a connection with Emile because he was the plug and, you know, all that stuff. So from that point, literally that same week that I got kicked out, I was on a waiting list from literally 2000, I think it was like 2007, 8. I didn't get a call from FIT to 2011. And it was the same week where I got kicked out. So I was like, okay, I'm going to FIT. And it worked out because I'm already working in New York, but I just didn't want to live here. For some reason, I don't know why. I just was like, I'm just not going to.
The rent's too high.
The rent was too high.
You were scared. You were scared of New York. You were scared of the rent.
Speak to our
It is
homeowner right
worse.
here. You know,
Okay, it was
homeowner.
like disgusting. I was like, I'm not paying that much. So that's why. That's exactly why I couldn't remember. But I was commuting back and forth from Philly to New York, constantly, almost every day. It was like twice every day. So I would just go back and forth, and I would take one of the buses at our 30th Street station would get me to Penn Station here. So I would just catch that every day and go to school. And that's where I started at FIT. And that's where my career really started to like flourish because I started, so a lot of my professors and instructors were actually buying my clothes like from me that I was like making at FIT. It was like really the dopest thing ever. Like, and one of my teachers is on that one show now with Rosa Parks or something like that, The Underground.
Yeah, that's on TV One, right?
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And that was the professor who bought the stuff from me. So it was like really crazy. And now starting back to get into design because I'm sure we'll get into a lot earlier with the show was able to help me tap back into my like creativity and stuff. And so now I'm starting to get back into like the design and stuff.
Now you're at FIT. What got you refocused on, wait a minute, I'm not as big as I thought I was when I was in Philly. Now I'm in big school. What brought you back down again to get the focus back?
Because everybody's doing stuff. Like in New York, it was like different because in Philly it's different because everybody's looking at you like, oh my God, how you working at Vogue? How you working at Oscar de la Renta? How you doing this? And I'm sitting next to a girl in class who owns her own two big boutiques in Paris. Like, you see what I'm saying? So like to go from that to that, it was like a lot. And I'm like, it humbled me a lot because I'm like, oh my God, y'all working 10 times harder than me. So I'm like, I got to really step my game up, step my cookies up. And I'm like, well, what y'all doing that I need to do? And I learned a lot about business there. And then from that point, I kind of like came back to Philly. Although I went to FIT, I finished, did everything I needed to do. But I had a friend who, somebody who I thought was my friend, who asked me for some clothes to borrow for a photo shoot. And I was like, okay, so you're going to take my pictures of my clothes. And I got everything together, the photo shoot, the hair, makeup, everything. The model, well, he kind of got a couple of models, but he became uninterested in like everything. Like he was like, I'm not interested in this clothing stuff. And he started going over there and talking to different people. So I picked up the camera and I started taking the pictures. And from that point, he took my photos and literally submitted them in for his work for class. And he wound up winning best of quarter. He wound up getting all these big promotions and off of my work. So I was like, what?
Wow.
So at that point, I was like, I think I can do this, since he, basically just took my work. All he did was like just slap a little bit of editing on it and just put it up. So I started doing like my own photography. And I was inspired by your guy who wrote the plays and stuff, because I used to do that stuff too. But the thing was, the money wasn't coming in from that. So my mentor was like, Marion Campbell, shout outs to her. She owns the Able Center in Philly. And she was like, and she's also on the board of directors at Penn. She was like, you have art down, you need business. So she sent me to Wharton School of Business for like a little certificate program like in business development. And that's where I started to earn the business skills that I really need to like move forward.
Well, listen, hold that thought.
Okay.
On the business skill. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. But then we want to get into what happened with depression.
Absolutely.
Because you were at the top, and then you hit rock bottom.
Absolutely.
So we definitely want to chime in on that. Then you went back up. You was like a stock market. Before we went to break, we was talking about the business. That, you was getting business in the fashion world.
Right.
Okay. Now that you're in, you were actually, your foot is in the door. You were in. You were rubbing elbows with some of the top fashion designers in the world.
Right.
You at the peak. What happened? Because something happened that made you all of a sudden have a depression. What made you get into depression where you felt that your life was at its peak?
Well, my mom got like extremely sick to the point where she couldn't do like anything. She became bedridden at this point. Like before, she can like get up and like walk a little distance if she had a little assistance. But at this point, she became totally disabled. So I left everything and I went in my grandmother's basement to take care of her, because that's where she was living. And I was taking care of her for almost like a year. And at this point, I was like really at rock bottom, because I didn't have any money at this time, because I left my whole career to take care of her. And during this time, I became like extremely depressed, because I wasn't doing anything with art anymore. Like anything with art, anything with fashion, I didn't touch it. And I just started like being like extremely depressed. I started eating a lot, and then that was the way me and my mom kind of like enjoyed ourselves with food. We used to watch the Cooking Network. We used to, go out and get, Chinese food, like all types of stuff. And we just really just ate a lot. And during this time, I went to go help my mentor, Marion Campbell, with her program that she was doing. I was volunteering at the Able Center, and part-time while I was still, working for my mom full-time. And well, I say working for her because I was literally, and at that point, I was like not doing easy stuff. I was changing diapers and doing crazy stuff.
Did it feel like you was back in your childhood? Maybe that's why you may have slipped into depression, because you was a young person. This is what you was doing. Then you left that, and then as an adult, you went back to it, and all of a sudden, you started to fall again.
I think so. I think I started like spiraling back because it was so much of that. Yeah, I think so. And it was like, oh wow, like, and I started to build a grudge with my siblings, because I was like, nobody's here to help. It was only just me. And at this point, and not even thinking, what is their relationship with her? You know what I mean? And I kind of like put that in the middle of everything I was going through, and I became extremely depressed because it was only me. And I'm like, I'm only taking care of my mom, and my mom was like that only little bit of light that I had. And so my outlet, and this is what the problem was, I had an outlet, was like, okay, I started researching fashion bloggers and stuff while I was at the Able Center interning for my mentor. And I started looking at like Brian Boy and Olivia Palermo, and I started looking at how they were like living and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, they living and doing this, they doing this. So I was like, why don't I do it? So I started going in. At first, it started like I started taking pictures of myself in fitting rooms. Of like, let's say I'll go into like Neiman Marcus or Chanel or any of those different designers, and I would go in and I would take pictures of myself in the fitting rooms, like I was actually going somewhere. But I would take them from angles because, mind you, I was big. And then I couldn't really fit the garment, so it'd be like halfway fitting the something or whatever.
So you was stretching it out.
Yeah, stretching it out, putting it through one shoulder,
you had the
and putting it
small
over there.
on, and you really knew you needed the extra large.
Extra large.
Oh,
'cause I'm
my
like
goodness.
putting it over like this, or just over my shoulder, thinking I had it on, and like tagging the Gucci.
But you want them to see that you're doing just as well as them.
Yeah, and
it's
just
like
as well as them.
faking it till you make it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then it started getting worse because I started like actually like I was like I would actually want to wear these clothes outside. So I started like writing bad checks to like my credit card company.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Now talk about that because now you went from depression now to jail, basically.
So basically, I was like writing bad checks to because I would max these credit cards out. Everything was in my name. I would never intentionally do something, even at that time, even at my worst, I would still never use somebody else's information. Or the only person I would ever damage, but back then, now I wouldn't damage nobody, including myself. But the only person back then that I would damage is myself. I would never do it to anybody else. So I think I started like writing bad checks, and obviously that's a crime. So what happened was eventually it caught up to me, and they were like, okay, this is illegal. You have to go, the credit card company pressed charges, and I had to, it wasn't even like a jail sentence. It was like, okay, you have to go to jail. Had I would have known criminals or like known who to talk to, they would have said, all you have to do is pay it off because they just want their money.
Yes, go to
debt
collector,
right?
like
and I went the long
payments.
Yeah, and because it was really they just wanted their money. So I went the long way, did the jail, came out in a week. My mom bailed me out, took the last little penny she had and bailed me out. And she passed, and then she basically bailed me out of prison. I'm not just prison, the jail. From that point, I was like in a rough place, and I was like, okay, let me try to further this little blog thing again. So I was like, and mind you, I'm still at work interning for my mentor, and I'm like, okay, let me start now reaching out to different celebrities for interviews. So I wound up reaching out to one of the girls from the Love and Hip Hop shows in Atlanta, and they were just ending the show, and people were asking a lot of questions about her. I was like, let me email her and see if she's gonna give me this little interview to tell me what's going on.
Which one was it?
Her name was Tia Becca. She's no longer with the franchise though, but she wound up doing an interview with me, and we wound up talking for like 2 hours. And when I found out in the interview that she was married, so I put it on the site, and at that point, all these places started hitting me up, like the Shade Room, Gossip, everybody.
Trying to figure out how you got that info. And none of us could get it.
Right. So they were like, they just started crediting me in the stores, and it was just like everybody started coming to the site and liking, my pictures and my Instagram and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I'm starting to be lit, a little bit. Right. So from that point,
don't follow him like you said.
I was like, okay, I'm starting to be a little lit. So I was like, okay, this is something here, but the people around me didn't know enough about blogging. It was just like, okay, we don't care. It ain't, nothing.
But you saw it though.
But I saw it because it was like, I'm being recognized in this community where I wanted to be in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people are knowing who I am. People are starting to book me for little stuff. So it started to build my confidence a little bit. But then what happened was my mom, she became sicker. And she had, at this point, she had to get like a bag. And they put her in a nursing home at that point because they was like, you don't have any certifications to, to control it. Exactly. So they basically took her to a nursing home. And at this point, I really became furious. And it was like a war of like worlds with my siblings. And well, mostly my sister, because I felt like she was not there. But then again, I still had to look at what's her relationship with her? Why don't she, and look at it for more myself. And I wish I would have done that because I think to this day, me and my sister's relationship probably would have been a lot stronger if I would have just minded my own business and just stayed focused with my mom and just helped that relationship even more. Because I think it hurt her to see her two children getting, battling and stuff. So I think with that point, she just became sicker. And I watched the whole progress. Like, a lot of people were just in and out. And then when times got really, really bad, where they felt like she was almost out of here, they was around 24/7. But then it was like she's back up again. It was everybody was gone. Right. So my focus was my mom. I would even be staying in the hospital weeks at a time. And I was like, I dare somebody to tell me to move. And I remember getting in an argument with my sister, and she was like, well, I have children and stuff. And I was like, if this was me, my kids would have been on this floor with me at night, you know, with my mom. But that's how much love I had for her. So everything went out the window. And at this point, she wound up passing away. And I became like extremely depressed. I'm still going through the court stuff at this time. And so one of my mentors that runs a program called Eddie's House that I was in, it was for children who've aged out of foster care. She basically was like, listen, I'm going to help you with this, you know, and she kind of helped me pay it off. I've still, you know, and I had to work to pay a lot of it off too. Right. So we both came together. She helped me pay it off. But at this time, the show, I've skipped parts.
Yeah, you skipped a few parts.
I skipped a few parts.
Yeah. Right, go ahead.
Okay. I did. And it's kind of like a big part.
What you're talking about, and like I was saying, you're passionate about what you have done. You know? So, you know, we are just listening to you because, like I said, you have a testimony. You helping somebody.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't think, and I think I speak for all of us, I don't think you have done nothing that me or him would have done. We would have dropped everything to go help our mother.
Absolutely.
Sometimes Dad,
I don't know about the bad checks though. You know, I don't know about that. I would speak on myself. I ain't writing no bad checks.
But see, that wasn't even a thing that was helping my mom or was associated with it, because I have to tell the truth. That was just something that I wanted to do, and it was like almost something like an outlet. Because if you are just wrapped up in this problem all day, every day, you can't see an outlet, you need to find some type of joy. I'm not saying do what I did, because I made a mistake in trying to find that joy, but there's some type of joy that you can do within your problem. Right. And why you have a problem.
Exactly. Again, we speaking with Ken Butler.
So now, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So now I'll fast forward it a little bit. So now you mom passes away. Now you're with your mentor, and all of a sudden you decide to apply for something.
Okay.
Now go ahead and tell us what you was doing. I might even get a little personal. What were you at your biggest when you decided to apply for this situation, and what did you think you were gonna get from it before you got selected, or before you even applied for it? What did you think was gonna come out of it?
Okay, so I was at this point I was working for my mentor, and one day my friend just called me and was like, listen, you need to come to LA, because he knew what I was going through, even though I didn't talk about it a lot. So he told me to come out to LA. I came out to LA, and he was working with a lot of reality stars, and it was just, they were just all around. And I'm like, okay, they were like getting flown to do an appearance in Vegas. Like, and I was like, oh my God, I want that life. And they hopping out of BMWs with Chanel glasses getting paid for promote, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to live that life. So they asked me to come with them, and I was like, no, because I was 240. Actually, at the time, I think I was like 260 something, but I had lost weight because I had went back. I'll get back to that. So basically, they left, and I stayed at the hotel by myself. So I started looking, okay, reality show castings. I found the casting that said, we're looking for fat and depressed people. Literally.
Ding dong. Ding dong.
Did you say, that's me? I literally seen it. And I was like, okay, let me apply to this. So I applied to it. And I literally poured my heart and soul out on this email. Like, I told everything that happened to me from a child all the way up until now. And I was like, and right now, I'm sitting here eating 2 big tubs of ice cream, just thinking about it. I took a picture, and they said submit a picture, and I took the picture of me and the ice cream smiling. Yeah.
Now was it Ben and Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs?
No, it was Haagen-Dazs. What flavor? Dolce Latte, man.
Oh, look at it, he's still smiling about that.
It doesn't taste the same anymore.
A twinkle comes to his eye when he said it. Dolce and Gay.
And I had a mentor too from foster care who said to me one time, like this would get you over any heartbreak you ever have or anything situation. And ever since she said that, I always went back to the ice cream when I was depressed.
Well, no, honestly, anytime when you see people depressed, like women,
so it's a
they
tub of
always
ice cream.
sitting with a
Yup,
tube of
ice cream. And it's true. And that's what I went to. So when the casting director, they called me back the next day and we talked for literally like 6 hours. I saw the sun go up, I saw it go down. And they were like, we really, really want you to come in for an interview. So I came in, did the interview. They were falling on the floor, laughing, cracking up. So they asked me to come back again the next day. And I came back again the next day. And they were like, almost like, oh my God, we're so big fans of you. We love you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then that's when I went into the room and I seen the casting thing for Revenge Body with Khloe Kardashian. But I didn't know that was her show until then. So at that point, we got all the way up into the legal part. And then they were like, okay, you actually have a warrant and you had to go. And the same day, my mentor from Eddie's house called me and said, the police, damn near the SWAT team is at my door looking for you. Wow. And she lives in a 16-bedroom house. And she's like,
what did you do?
Yeah, but she was laughing about it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she took this like so light. But then I was like, okay, let me go back home, fix it. Me and her had a conversation and she was like, you need to work. You know what I mean? You need to do whatever you have to do. So I started working a regular job at a salad store. And
a regular job. You didn't want to go to the ice cream factory and get a job?
See, they won't hire me. Like McDonald's wouldn't hire me either. But no.
Because you had a criminal
No.
record.
This was even before that. They just wouldn't. They would always tell me I was overqualified or they just wouldn't hire. I don't know why.
All right, so you're working at a salad store?
I'm working at the salad store. And I think I did have to lie on my resume. Like I did work for food service before and I never did because I needed the job so bad. Right. So I started working for them and I was working doubles, triples, quadruples, everything to get like not only just that money up, but just to fix my credit and to fix my life. Right. So I was like working and I was like watching CNBC and all this stuff like that, just trying to get my life together. And I thought the show was over because I was like, I'm never going to give them the show. But what broke my heart was season 1 started airing because that was the season I was supposed to be on. Right. And I was devastated watching like who are my friends now, but I was like watching them, hating on them and like getting mad. And I'm like, why can't it be me? And then literally Sheila Collins, my mentor who owns the casting company, she called me and was like, listen, we need you. We gearing up for second season. And literally I was on a plane that Friday. Came back. It was a little struggle between like, it probably was like 3 weeks. And literally the day they called me back and was like, you got it. I'm filming with Khloe the next day. So that's kind of how it happened.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. I see your mentors do a lot for you.
Absolutely.
Like go over some of that. How do you feel about some of your mentors? Or what do you think, would you be where you're at now without these mentors?
Hell no.
Or
no.
What do you think they've given to you as you sit here now? You can reflect maybe 30 seconds. Just what is your mentors? If you could say thank you to one or two of them for giving them something that you never really thought about that you had in you that they pulled out of you.
I would have to say Marion Campbell and Sarah McGinley. I would have to say them too because they really helped me in believing in myself and actually pressing play on my dreams and things like that. Where before I never really pressed play. I think I press go a little, then I'll stop or not really fulfill anything. So with them not having it was almost like having like actual parents, like how you not fully, but like having that actual support that can help you in that foundation where you can actually grow and do something with it, you know. But typically I am on my own a lot. And I am on my own. So for me, it helps to have a foundation of mentors, whether it's Kim, Khloe, Sharon, Marion, Sean, or anybody. You know, I have like 7, but I depend on all of them for different things. And they kind of build a healthy foundation for me.
So now for yourself, now since you had all those mentors and now you up into a nice, good position of yourself, now are you mentoring anybody?
Absolutely. I always mentor people. Like even my followers.
What followers? Oh, cause you ain't following nobody.
Just
yeah,
stop.
Stay with the script. I'm not staying. I told him I was gonna say this is reality radio. We gonna step off.
Let me tell you, I run contests sometimes. I call them my Ken. Well, they call themselves Ken dolls, like my followers and stuff. And they basically like take on the world of their own. And I run contests and I follow like one of them, 2 of them a day, something like that.
So you got sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
See that? Look at that. You see that, y'all? You see that?
Do you see yourself doing a book?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like I said, it's a story. I'm not even gonna say a rag to riches.
Right.
It's not a rag to riches, but it just shows the perseverance.
Right.
How you as a young person, you didn't have a childhood.
Right.
You know, you had to become an adult.
Right.
For another adult.
Right. Right.
So you didn't have a childhood. Then by the city taking you away from your mother, because they say she couldn't care for you because of her condition. Mm-hmm. This is empowering.
Well, I've been offered a lot of deals for a book, but we didn't really see it as something that is for now, because the deals, not that the deals weren't right, but I feel like the blog is many books in itself. Right. And I release my story in little ways through my photography, and not only just my photography, but just through my blog, period. So we got a lot of stories about like different points of my life. And then when the time is right and we built the platform enough, we definitely going to do it. But I got a lot more work to do before we put that out there.
So now, as my mentor would have been sitting here, as I always asked almost every guest, what's the plan for the next 5 years? What do you see yourself, or where do you see yourself going within the next 5 years? What's your 5-year plan?
Well, I have a lot of stuff that I've always, basically everything that I've always wanted to do. Like,
give me 3 things.
Three things.
Let's for the next 5 years. What is the 3 things or 5 things Ken is gonna focus on, accomplish, and then move on from?
Definitely a fashion line. We are working on that now, and that's something that's going to be in the near future. I would say definitely, like he said, maybe a book, that stuff. I definitely want to get back into like plays and writing like short films and stuff like that. I definitely want to expand on that. But just entertainment, period. I'm just here for it. I've always done it. And I can't wait to really see what the future holds, because now, unlike before, I was just trying to do it and I didn't have anything. Now I have a platform and great mentors. So now the sky's the limit.
Listen, before you go, Ken, we want to ask you, talk about what you're doing for your city of Philly, where you was born and raised. Talk about what you're doing for the young people there.
So I have a lot of programs and a lot of people that I work with. One of my other mentors, I know I keep saying mentors, but they are.
Nah, but that's what you have.
One of my other mentors, Vicky, she has a school for kids, for just people, period. If you are 16 or 60 trying to get your high school diploma, you can get it. And she has a program like that, so I'm helping her with that. And then we're also working on a performing arts school, because they're taking a lot of the arts out of the schools in Philly. So we are definitely, I'm there for it. And I'm working with the Grammy Board of Philly also, trying to help that all come together. Because right now, like I said, with the platform that I built, well, the platform of obviously the Kardashians, and then my platform that I built, it's just a lot that I can offer now. So now it opened up a lot more doors, like the Grammy Boards of Philly and the different people that have different things. So I'm trying to get all of that together for Philly. And I'm working on a lot of different stuff, again, with the Able Center, Eddie's House, all these different organizations who some may have helped me. Even DHS I want to give back to. So I'm trying to get my foot in everything.
Well, listen, you have a lot of layers, and we definitely want you to come back.
Absolutely.
I know it's a lot of things that we didn't really touch on, because you have so many layers. Give the people your social media where they can find you at. Any organizations that may want to reach out to you, you know, want you to help them, fund them, or something like
Absolutely.
that.
So if you can just go to KenButlerWorld.com, or if you're fancy, you can go to KenButler.world and keep it there. And then you can also follow me on social media at Ken Butler World, period. Not period, but just Ken Butler World.
You got an underscore on that one?
Nah, I'm not saying nothing. I put my disclaimer.
I'm not messing with him.
I told him.
We're going to have a problem. Me and him going to have a problem.
Listen, the next time you come back, because we would love to have you back, so we could, talk more. And also, if you're doing anything in the local Philly
Do you want me
area,
to follow you?
Yeah, why not? I won't be that one. I don't care. I'm special.
Oh, look, she said not before me. They trying to jump me in here.
But seriously, though, if there's anything we can help you locally here or in Philly, if you got something going on, definitely let us know. Because if we don't help each other, we are no good.
Absolutely.
To each other,
if you guys need me to help with anything, I'm here. I'm there.
And we love to have you back whenever you
Absolutely.
We're definitely going to have you back.
Absolutely.
Well,
I get it in the morning. Every Saturday